The Young and the Restless spoilers next 2 week February 3rd to February 14th. Secrets, Lies, and Revenge. The battle over Damien and Sharon's reckoning. The air in Genoa City crackled with tension as old wounds reopened, secrets came to light, and vengeance simmered beneath the surface. While Nate and Audra raced to uncover the truth behind the two Damiens, Daniel found himself consumed by a vendetta against Sharon, one that threatened to spiral out of control. At the center of it all stood Amy, who held the answers that everyone sought. But fear kept her silent. The mystery of Damien, two men, one truth. Nate folded his arms across his chest, his expression hard. Across from him, Amy sat stiffly, avoiding his gaze. He had been patient, too patient. But now, the time for patience had run out. Amy, Nate said, his voice edged with frustration. We need answers. There are two men walking around claiming to be Damien. We both know that's impossible. So tell me the truth. Which one is your son? Amy's hands trembled as she clutched her teacup, her knuckles white. I can't, she whispered. You can't or you won't. Audra interjected, her sharp eyes narrowing. Because there's an easy way to solve this, and you know it. A DNA test. It was the simplest, most definitive way to settle the dispute. One test, and the real Damien would be revealed. But Amy shook her head violently. No. I won't allow it. Nate's jaw tightened. Why? What are you so afraid of? She had no answer. Or rather, she had too many. She knew the truth, deep down, she always had. But bringing it to light meant facing consequences she wasn't ready to accept. That's when Nate and Audra exchanged a knowing glance. If Amy wouldn't allow it, then they would do it behind her back. The secret DNA test. Under the cover of secrecy, Nate and Audra moved quickly. They needed DNA samples from both men, the two Damiens, without them realizing what was happening. It wasn't easy, but they managed to collect strands of hair and objects that had come into contact with both individuals. Then, with their evidence in hand, they sent the samples to a lab, demanding urgent results. There was no room for error. They had to know the truth. Days passed in agonizing suspense, the tension growing thick in the air. Amy remained oblivious to their secret plan, still clinging to whatever reason she had for refusing to confront the truth. But soon, she wouldn't have a choice. Because when the results came back, they revealed something that no one had expected. The real Damien, a battle of interests. As Nate and Audra read the results, a chill ran down their spines. The new man, the one who had arrived more recently, quietly insisting he was Damien, was telling the truth. The other? A fraud. It was exactly as Nate had suspected. And yet, it wasn't good news. Because if the real Damien had been hidden away all these years, that meant someone had orchestrated a cover-up. Someone had ensured that a fake Damien took his place. And the only person who could answer for that was Amy. When Nate confronted her again, DNA results in hand, Amy went pale. The secret she had fought so hard to keep had finally been dragged into the light. But even as the truth unraveled, a new battle began, one over money, power, and identity. Because the fraudulent Damien wasn't going to walk away quietly. He had come too far to lose everything now. The fight for who truly deserved the legacy of Damien had only just begun. Meanwhile, Daniel's unforgiving war against Sharon. While one war raged over Damien's identity, another darker conflict brewed in the heart of Daniel. He couldn't accept it. Sharon was free. She had been declared innocent, her name cleared. But Daniel knew the truth, she was not innocent. And now, he wanted revenge. That's why he sought out two people he believed would stand by his side, Phyllis and Billy. Phyllis had her own reasons for despising Sharon, and Billy had suffered through enough deception to understand the need for justice. Daniel thought he could count on them. But Billy shook his head. Let it go, Daniel. Daniel's hands curled into fists. How can you say that? She got away with it. She played the system, manipulated everyone, and now she's walking free like she's done nothing wrong. Billy sighed. I get it. I do. But what you're doing, it won't change anything. It'll only make things worse. Daniel refused to listen. He had always been stubborn, and this time was no different. He wasn't about to let Sharon get away with her crimes. Fine, he snapped. If you won't help me, I'll do it myself. Billy watched him go, concern flickering in his eyes. Daniel was walking down a dangerous path, one that could lead to his own destruction. But Daniel didn't care. All he cared about was revenge. And no matter what, Sharon was going to pay. Title: Haunted by Ghosts, and the threat of replacement. Claire's nights were filled with restless pacing and half-formed nightmares. Every time the wind rattled a windowpane or a door creaked in the silent hallway, she would bolt upright, convinced it was Jordan or Ian Ward returning from the grave. The mere thought of them alive, and lurking in the shadows, wrapped its claws around her sanity. Her heart pounded whenever she was alone, and she found little solace even in a crowded room. In truth, no one could blame her for this paranoia. Jordan and Ian Ward, notorious for their manipulative and dangerous behavior, had cast a dark spell over Claire's life. She had once believed herself free of their influence, but the fear that they might still be breathing, planning their next assault, kept her on high alert. It was as though she sensed them everywhere, an echo of footsteps behind every closed door. A mother's desperate mission amid Claire's unraveling, Victoria was locked in her own struggle. Bringing her daughter back to some semblance of normalcy. The stoic mask Victoria had perfected over the years cracked whenever she saw her child's eyes ringed with tearful anxiety. Claire's condition reminded Victoria all too painfully of other cases, like Connor's bouts of mental anguish, Sharon's unexpected breakdowns, and now Claire's rapidly escalating paranoia. It's like the writers of our lives keep prescribing the same tragedy, Victoria murmured to Nikki one evening. First Connor, then Sharon, now Claire. Why does everyone around here end up grappling with mental illness? Nikki had no immediate answer. She recognized the pattern as well, a kind of cyclical torment haunting the Newman family and those close to them. Perhaps it was the relentless stress. Perhaps it was a generational curse. Or maybe it was that tragedies had a way of clustering around those with power and wealth, magnifying every misstep and heartbreak. Regardless of the cause, Victoria was determined not to lose her daughter to the darkness. Every day, she coaxed Claire toward therapy. She insisted on calmer routines, medication if necessary, anything to stop her child's panic from escalating further. She even tried to cut off the news, any mention of Jordan or Ian Ward, to help Claire's mind settle. But deep down, Victoria knew that Claire was inching closer to a breaking point. Late at night, she heard her daughter sobbing behind a locked bedroom door, each ragged breath a testimony to the nightmares clawing at her psyche. Harrison and Summer's rising affection while Claire fought her inner demons, life in Genoa City marched on, never pausing for the wounded or the weary. In the midst of all the chaos, a surprising warmth blossomed elsewhere, Harrison and Summer. The two had been spending more and more time together, perhaps unintentionally at first. A shared project here, a coffee date there. Soon, they found themselves confiding in each other about everyday frustrations, family politics, and the gnawing sense that things in the Newman orbit were never as straightforward as they appeared. It wasn't long before their simple friendship began to feel deeper, more intimate. They discovered an ease in each other's presence, a mutual understanding that felt precious in a city rife with betrayal and secrets. Even those who knew them casually began to notice the affectionate glances and the slight flush in their cheeks whenever they were together. For Claire, who was already teetering on the edge, the growing bond between Harrison and Summer felt like another blow. She couldn't help but see Summer as her replacement, an interloper who might step in and absorb the family's affections. Claire's fear wasn't entirely rational, but that did little to curb the sting. Watching Harrison and Summer grow closer pushed her further into isolation. Claire's plan to escape the whispers in Claire's head grew louder each day. Leave. Run. You'll never be safe here. In her mind, Genoa City had become a haunted place. Jordan's cruel voice mingled with Ian Ward's manipulative laughter, forming a tapestry of terror that colored every aspect of her existence. She fantasized about quietly slipping out in the middle of the night, leaving behind the Newman name, the family drama, the fear of resurrection by old enemies. She pictured a small apartment in some distant town, living incognito, away from the endless cycle of mental breakdowns that seemed to plague everyone around her, Connor, Sharon, herself. Yet, something kept her rooted in place, whether it was her lingering attachment to her mother, the glimmer of hope that her life could still be salvaged, or the faint sense that running might solve nothing. Every time she considered buying a bus ticket or booking a one-way flight, she hesitated. The looming threat of loss. Even so, the reality was grim. With Harrison and Summer's connection flourishing, Claire saw her place in the family slip further away. Once, she had pictured a future where she overcame her demons and stood at the heart of the Newman circle, strong and at peace. Now, she felt more like a burden, a fragile presence overshadowed by others' more vibrant, grounded lives. Summer seemed to represent everything Claire was not at the moment: stable, clear-headed, optimistic. While Claire struggled with panic attacks and nightmares, Summer radiated calm support for Harrison. The closeness between them threatened to eclipse Claire altogether. Victoria, for her part, did her best to reassure her daughter that no one was trying to replace her. But Claire's paranoia told her otherwise. Watching Harrison and Summer side by side, smiling about an inside joke, or leaning on each other during a tough day, those images fueled the gnawing sense that Claire's role was diminishing. She felt it in every room she entered, as though the light in Harrison's eyes dimmed whenever Claire appeared, replaced by an awkward sympathy. Even the staff's sidelong glances seemed to say, "Poor Claire, so unstable." A fragile tomorrow, so Claire remained locked in a swirl of internal catastrophes, the dread of Jordan and Ian Ward's potential return, haunting her at every turn. The anguish of her declining mental health, echoing the tragedies that struck Connor and Sharon. The fear of losing her place, watching Harrison and Summer forge a bond that left her feeling like the odd one out. Her mother's efforts could only do so much. And while Victoria had power, resources, and a bottomless well of love for her daughter, the weight of past traumas made every solution feel inadequate. As Claire stood at her window, late at night, gazing out at the city lights, she knew a decision loomed. Could she muster the courage to stay and fight for her sanity, to push back the nightmares of Jordan and Ian Ward? Or would she give in to the urge to escape, leaving everyone and everything behind? For now, no one in Genoa City had a definitive answer. The ghosts of their past kept returning, and each time, they left scars that never fully healed. With Summer seemingly stepping into a cherished spot in the family, Claire was at a crossroads: reclaim her rightful place or disappear in the night, leaving her heartbreak behind. In the end, the question remained: is it ever truly possible to outrun your own mind, or the family that fate has bound you to? Genoa City often proved that you can change your address, but the ghosts that haunt you have a way of following close behind, especially when those ghosts were familiar faces and whisper old secrets you'd hoped were buried for good.